So today we're going to do the handover video on the Burstner Ixeo I 728G. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. Coming over to the passenger side, opening up the passenger door. You'll firstly notice that you've got your Emm-Bee cab blinds which are on the front here. You've also got these in the front as well, which you can just pull that blind down to black out the cab. To operate these, simply unpinch and then connect them onto the side. These have got a magnetic strip which will allow you to bring it to the side here and then clip into place, and that is the same for the other side as well. And then, as I mentioned, you've got the big blind which will just drop down just by pinching them two little clips all the way down to the front of the dash. As a rule of thumb in a motorhome, if it feels like it's being forced, you are probably doing something wrong, and it's the exact same with these. If these feel like they're getting caught or they're being forced, you are doing something wrong. Just take a minute just to assess what you're doing and then resume. Whilst I'm on the passenger side, you'll also notice that you've got your fill-up cap, which is just here. So you've got your diesel, which is at the top there, and then your AdBlue, which is just below as well. I've opened this door up as well just to show you where your bonnet release catch is, which is just here on the passenger side. Lift that up, unlatch that, and that'll release the bonnet. With the bonnet open, I'm going to just show you a couple things underneath here. The main thing that you need to know is if you're ever needing to jump start the vehicle. If that is the case, underneath this cap here, you'll notice that you've got a positive sign, which is just on the top there. Flick the cap up, and then you can simply connect onto this tab here. That's where your positive goes, as indicated by the tab, and then just underneath here is where your negative goes, just onto that metal ring there. Whilst I'm underneath here, as I say, they're the main things that you need to know, but whilst I'm underneath here, I'll just show you a couple more things. You've got your engine oil, which is here, and then your dipstick. You've then got your engine coolant, which is there. Your power steering fluid is next to that, and then finally your washer fluid, which is just there. Moving on from the bonnet, we're now moving along the side of the vehicle. Firstly, you've got your habitation door. We're going to go more into that obviously when we're going on the inside. You'll then notice that you've got your two fridge vents on this side of the vehicle, and then also underneath here your barbecue point. I've just opened this up for you just to show you where the barbecue point goes, and that can just connect onto there. Obviously make sure that you've got the gas on at the bottle, and then you can turn this nozzle to release the gas to operate the barbecue. Just quickly on the fridge vents before I move on. With these fridge vents, and I'll go more into depth, as I say, on the inside about your fridge, but your fridge isn't like a domestic fridge, and these vents, what they do is they pull the air through, and it's that air that is used to cool the fridge and then power it. So with that in mind, do bear in mind that if you have got the sun on this side of the vehicle and it's beating down on a hot day on this side, if you can, try and turn the vehicle around, because as I say, this is where the vehicle pulls all of its air in for the fridge, and obviously that's hot air, it's not going to help it, so just bear that in mind. You can also get winter covers for these if you do choose to have them, mainly really good for storage and things like that. Moving on from the fridge vents, you'll notice that I've just opened up this hatch. In the hatch you've got your cassette toilet. To operate this, all you need to do is simply pull up on this little handle here and slide out like so. The main thing is, when removing this, always make sure that the blade on the toilet is closed. If that blade is open, for example, what will happen is you'll go to lift this up and try to remove it, and it'll get jammed and it'll get stuck. What I've had in the past is customers will ultimately keep on pulling at this and pull it out, and what that does is it snaps the arm which connects the which makes contact with the blade and therefore breaks the cassette. So just bear that in mind. If it feels like it's being stuck, go back into the van and make sure that the blade on the toilet is closed. You should always get into the habit of closing that anyway, and we'll go into more of that on the inside of the vehicle. So as I say, to remove this, simply pull up on this handle, remove like so, and then you can access the cassette. When using the cassette, all you need to do is simply pull the nozzle out, unscrew the cap. I've not got a cap on here at the moment, but all you need to do is unscrew the cap, and then through sliding out you've got two little buttons on the back. The button on the back releases a vacuum. If you press that in, what that's going to do, it's going to release a vacuum in the vehicle and empty all the contents out in one steady slurry. So also make sure that you do click that. You've then got this other toggle here, which is orange. You don't need to do anything with that, as that makes contact with the blade, as I mentioned, which allows the cassette to close and open. So with that in mind, always make sure that that's in that position. You'll never need to turn that or anything when you are using it and sliding it back in, as it should always be in that position. Once done with this, all you need to do is empty it, put some water in to swill it out, and then once you're finished, put the cap back on and then slide it back in like so. It's worth mentioning as well, you do need to put obviously blue fluid in here or some sort of toilet sachet. The toilet sachets are the granule forms and they can go straight into the toilet. However, any toilet fluid and blue liquid and things like that, that needs to go straight into the cassette, and you can use a lid as a measurement of putting it in. Moving on from the toilet cassette, you'll notice that you've got a TV point with an aerial here. This typically is never hooked up to the aerial. However, you have got a socket there. This is a continental plug, so you will need an adapter for that. Before moving on to the garage, you'll notice that you've got your awning, which is the full length of the vehicle here. With your awning, you need to bear in mind that it's like a massive sail, so if you do get any wind underneath it, what typically can happen is it'll blow the awning up and break the arm and potentially snap it and damage the vehicle. So if it is a windy day, just bear that in mind. And it's also worth noting, if you are using the awning in rain, which you can do, you need to always bear in mind that you do need to dry it. So if you put it away wet, you need to, when you get a dry day, always wind it out and dry that awning, just to make sure that the canvas doesn't become mouldy and deteriorate. To operate this awning, you've got a little T which goes into here, which will probably be in the garage. That T is a telescopic pole which connects into there. You turn it slightly and then it gets hooked in and remains in the awning. You then need to wind that out and wind it out to a position which you can then hold it and touch it. You've then got two legs in the awning. All you'll need to do is flick them out. They'll flick outwards, let it take the weight of the awning, and then all you need to do is simply angle the legs like so and wind it out. So angle and wind out, angle and wind out. Once you bring it out to its fullest, the awning canvas will have a little bit of slack in it, so it will begin to sag. Once you've done that, just wind it in a little bit just to retain a bit of tension, and then you've done the awning. So dead simple. With the garage open, you'll notice that you've got your carpets back here, along with your tie-down points, and also your awning pole, which I mentioned earlier. You have also got a light up at the top here, just so you can see into the garage. Before I move on from the garage, your garage is fully heated and insulated, so you can put wet things in here and things like that. And also on your doors, you'll notice that you do have little clips like this just to release the door. For example, if you ever do end up in the garage putting and sorting things out and the wind, for example, gets this and shuts the garage door on you, you can always get out from the inside. Moving around the back of the vehicle, you've got your reversing camera, which is at the top there. And then moving on to the other side, you've got your other entrance for your garage. Moving across, you'll notice that you've got your external shower point on this side. I'll open that up for you now. With that open, you'll be able to see that you can activate the water and just use a bayonet fitting, which just clips into there to activate the shower. Of course, you do need your pump on as well for this to operate. Moving on from the external shower, you've then got your gas bottle container, which is in here. This will take 2 gas bottles. The main thing with the gas is to always make sure that the gas is turned off at the bottle when travelling, due to safety. You'll also notice a little sticker down here which indicates one of your drain down points. I'm going to discuss your drain down points all together when I move on to your convenience locker, which is here, so I'll come back to this. In the middle here, you've got your truma vent. It does get very hot, this area, so just bear that in mind. If your vehicle has got the Aldi, you'll have a similar sort of system. It'll just say Aldi on there. And as I say, it does get very hot, so just bear that in mind. You don't want to, hang anything on here or burn your fingers, so just be careful of that. Moving across to your convenience locker. The great thing with Burstners is they have a convenience locker where they put everything in one area for you. You've got 4 main drain down points in a vehicle. you've got, for your Burstner rather, you've got your freshwater drain down point, you've got your boiler drain down point, which is there. You've then got a second drain down point for your taps and things, and all your pipeline. And then you've finally got your wastewater drain down point, which is here, as I mentioned before. So coming back to your convenience locker, firstly, your fresh water. Your fresh water tank will take up to 120 litres. To fill this up, you need to unscrew this cap. Then you use this black nozzle and funnel almost. That then connects onto here, and then you can put your hose pipe in. What that's going to do is any water that comes out, it's going to go straight out the van and not in it. So do use that. This is an opaque colour, so you will be able to see the level of the water as it does increase. And as I say, this will take 120 litres. If you are travelling with water, the manufacturer do recommend that you travel with 20 litres of water in due to payload and weight distribution, so just do bear that in mind. On the top here, you'll notice that you've got a black nib. This allows the entire water to be drained for your fresh water. To do that, all you need to do is unscrew this nib like so, and that'll allow you to drain down the system. You've got two settings on this black nib. Firstly, if you turn it, you'll hear a click, and all that is a lug. And what will happen is once you're at that, it'll allow the entire system to drain down to 20 litres. And in essence, that's a quick drain down point, which has been provided by the manufacturer. As I say, if you are travelling water, to travel with 20 litres. To drain down the entire 120 litres, all you need to do is keep draining and turning past that lug. So keep turning the nib past that lug. And as I say, that'll drain down the entire 120 litres. Moving on from the fresh water tank, you've then got your frost protection valve, which is just down there. The frost protection valve, how that works, that is the boiler drain down point. It's called a frost protection valve because in essence it's a fail-safe. So what this will do is at the moment it's in the open position. You know that because you've got a black nib on the top of the diamond which is up, and then you'll notice a blue tab which is just down there which is pinged out. That allows the whole thing to be open, and that will drain down the boiler system. To close this, what you've got to do is simply turn that diamond so the black nib pops in, and then the blue tab on the side there, just press that in, and that'll close the whole system and allow you to fill up the boiler when you're priming your system and things like that. Now, as I mentioned, this is a frost protection valve, so what will happen is when you are using the vehicle, or when it gets to a certain temperature, this will trip. So what will happen is it will get to 7 degrees approximately, and this will end up tripping. So it will spin out like this, the black nib will come up and the blue tab will come out, and that'll open it. And as I say, that's a fail-safe to make sure that it doesn't get any frozen water in the boiler, because that's an absolute nightmare. Now, because of that, what will often happen is, especially after you've used it, you've finished storing it and things like that, you'll come to use the vehicle and you'll forget about this. And what will typically happen is you'll forget about this, and then water will keep on coming out of it. So you need to come to here and always turn this and press that nib in, just like that. Now, what might happen, especially if you've not used it for a while, is you'll go to turn the top nib like that. The black nib will pop in as usual, and then you'll go to press in the blue tab which is on the side, and it won't click in. So it'll click in but then ping out again. The reason for that is this reacts to, this has got some solution in there which reacts to temperature, which allows it obviously to trip when it is at a certain temperature. Now, if that is the case and it's not pinging in, the reason for that is the temperature that you're using the vehicle in is too cold. So it's scared of obviously filling this up because it could potentially freeze. So if that's the case, you need to go onto the inside of the vehicle, turn your heating on, which I'm going to discuss for you shortly. Turn your heating on, and then all you've got to do is come into this area, press this in, and that'll allow it to seal. You'll notice that you've got a pipe here. The reason this is here is to heat this area, so you've got to wait approximately 20 to 30 minutes. That'll then heat this area and it'll become hot enough to then click that tab in and allow you to close the boiler point. Moving on from there, you've also got a final drain down point in this convenience locker. You'll notice that you've got this yellow tab In the up position like that, it's open, and in the down position, it's closed. To drain it, simply push up like that. And this is for everything beyond the boiler point to the taps and things. This is all your pipeline. Again, make sure that that's drained down as well. Finally, before moving on from the convenience locker, you will notice that you've got your extension cable, which is your mains hookup cable, which links into here. That connects into there, and then your lead coming out will simply jut out and go into this here. That will come out here, and then there's a little small gap in the seal which will allow you to close it and close it on the cable like so. Moving on to your final drain down point is your wastewater drain down point, which I mentioned briefly before. You'll notice that you've got this sticker here to indicate where it's located, and underneath here you've got a grey pipe and also a metal arm there. On the convenience locker, I don't know whether you noticed, but you've got a metal arm. What will happen is that'll connect onto there. It's got a square end to connect. Simply turn that, and that'll allow you to empty all the water out of the pipe like so. You'll then have a massive grid on the side, so you need to drive over this area, unhook that, and it'll dump all the water. Whilst we are on the topic of your drain down points, what we say with your drain downs is you can keep them all open when you're moving off site, because at the end of the day it is just water. And what that means is when you are travelling down the road, the vibrations of the road are going to get all that water out, so by the time you get home your vehicle is completely free of water. But you always need to get into the habit of draining down to ensure that you don't get frozen water and things in the system. So that concludes the outside of the vehicle. We're now going to move on to the inside. Moving into the vehicle, just beside the habitation door, you'll notice that you've got your light switches. You've got the two here which activate and deactivate the awning on the outside and also the door light. You've then got your porch light, which is just here on the entrance, and then you'll also notice that you've got some more lights here to dim the lights for the internal lights here. To turn them off, simply just click. You can see that turns them on and off like so. And if I was to hold, it allows them just to dim like so. Moving up, you've then got your control panel, which is just here. On your control panel, you've got a few settings. Using this dial, you can swivel through the settings like so. So to begin with, on the power button here, if I click that, that is your master switch, and that'll turn off everything. The only thing that doesn't turn off, as you can see, are these lights here. So your porch lights and also your door and awning light, as they are operated just through these switches here, just so when you're coming back it's easy obviously to locate and navigate from there. To turn everything on, simply press the button, and that, you can see, has turned everything on. You'll then need to turn your light switches on, obviously, to activate the internal lights. Coming back to the control panel, moving up, you've got your habitation battery, which just shows its percentage there. You've then got your vehicle battery, which again just shows its percentage, your freshwater tank, and then your wastewater tank. As you can see, we've got nothing in the systems at the moment, hence why it's showing 0%. You then got your clock as well, so you can change that if needs be. Using the dial, as you can see, by just rotating it, it allows you to navigate through the options. Simply click in to activate. You'll then notice that you've got your vehicle's temperature, which is for the internal temperature of the vehicle. And then you've also got, just as I scroll down, your external temperature. Finally, on this panel, the most important feature is the pump button here, which at the moment it's off. If I click this button, it'll activate on. When you are using the pump, you need to firstly make sure that there's all your water in the vehicle is filled up, because you don't want to be running the pump without any water in the system, because you'll simply just burn out the pump. Simply press your pump on, then go to all your taps, including your shower, and turn them to hot, and then turn them to on. What that's going to do is it's going to pull fresh water from the freshwater tank, pull it through the boiler, and then out of the tap. It's going to spurt and splutter, and then once it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Because you're putting it on hot first, it's going to come through the boiler and prime that system. Your boiler holds up to about 10 litres of water, just bear that in mind. And as I say, that'll then just put it straight out the tap and run steadily. Once you've done that for your hot, you need to flick it over and do the exact same for the cooled. And as I say, you need to do that for all your taps, including your shower, to make sure that you prime your system. Once you have done that, each of your taps are on something called a micro switch. And what that does is it activates and deactivates the pump when you require it, just as you would get at home. So once you have primed your system, you can simply leave your pump on, because it'll only activate the pump when you turn on the tap. And as I say, just make sure you prime your system, obviously, and turn the pump on when you have got water in the system. Moving through into the kitchen area. In your kitchen, you've got your storage, which is just underneath here. And also, you'll notice some grey taps, which are just there underneath the sink. These are just simply isolator valves. You don't need to switch them off or turn them, just leave them as they are. They are just for us and a technician. That'll clip in. You've then got some more storage underneath here, as you can see. And then a little bit more storage underneath here. The main thing underneath here to know is your RCD breaker, which is there. If the vehicle ever trips, you need to come to this area and make sure, obviously, that it's all activated and on. A really good tip is if you are on site, for example, and you can't get any power to the vehicle, but you are plugged in, a really good tip is if you come to this box and you click that button there, which says test. If you click that button and these two switches trip, you know that you're getting power to the vehicle, so you therefore know it's not a power fault with the site or the cable that you're using, it's a fault with your vehicle. And what that allows you to do is isolate the problem. From there you can then check, obviously, your fuses. You'll typically find that it often is a fault with your cable or or the site, so just bear that in mind. Obviously, if you can't get any power and things like that. Also, a nice bit of storage underneath here. At the top here, you've got your oven and grill, and also your hobs here, which are all operated through gas. And again, you need to make sure that you have your gas on to feed that through for it to activate. Whilst I'm in your kitchen area, I'll show you your Remiscab blinds. You've got Remiscab blinds all the way through. You've got blackout blinds underneath. Then just by pulling down, you've also got your fly screen. On each of your windows, if you unhook these plastic grips here, it'll allow you to open up the window. You've then got a small click in these struts here, which will allow you to keep the window at one level as it is now. To close it all the way down, what you do need to do is push it all the way back up, and that will then allow you to close it like so. Now the windows, you can have them venting, so if you wanted just to allow a little bit of airflow through, you can do. Just be careful of this though, because when you are travelling, you need to make sure that these, as well as your skylights, are all closed, because obviously you don't want any wind getting underneath here, because it can rip the window off. So just be careful of that. Up at the top as well, you'll notice that you've got these little lights here. These are on a live tracking system, so you can simply pull off, so twist and pull off, and change the location of them around the vehicle if you do want to. Turning back round towards the fridge, at the top you've got space for a microwave, which is just into there, and then also you've got your fridge, which is a Dometic fridge here. Your Dometic fridge is a three-way fridge, and as I briefly mentioned outside, it's nothing like a domestic fridge. It does a very good job at maintaining the temperature of objects and things like that, and food, but doesn't do the best of temperature getting it down. Doesn't do the best of jobs getting it down to a temperature. So make sure that if you are if you want cooled things to be in the fridge, put cooled things in. It's the same thing for the freezer as well. If you want frozen things to be in the freezer, put frozen things in, and it'll just maintain that level. The reason it's called a three-way fridge is there's three ways to power it. You'll notice just on the panel here, you've firstly got a cable, you've then got a flame, you've then got a battery, and then you've got an A symbol here. So if we're just ignoring this A for now, your cable is 230 volt, so when you're hooked up on site, the majority of the time you're going to be using that. When you're wild camping, you're going to be running it off gas, which is indicated by this flame here. And then finally, you've got your leisure battery, which is 12 volt, and you're going to be running that when you are travelling down the road or moving, because that will allow it to power the fridge when you're travelling. Now, a lot of people think that they can run the fridge off the leisure battery when they're stationary, for wild camping, for example. However, you can't, because if that was the case, the fridge would just drain all of its power and you couldn't use it for anything else. So because of that, you can only use your leisure battery and when you're travelling, because you've got a built-in alternator with this vehicle, which will send power to your leisure battery, which will therefore allow you to power the fridge. So just bear that in mind. If you are wild camping, you want to power the fridge, has to be gas. This A that I mentioned before stands for automatic, and what it'll do is it'll automatically assign whatever power you've got or whatever fuel. So leave it on A, and that'll automatically, as I say, assign whichever fuel you have. Coming across from this, you've then got your temperature. Through clicking this, you can alter the temperature. And then you've also got a reset button there, which is indicated by this sticker. Moving on from your fridge now, moving into the back of the vehicle. We're now moving into your bathroom area. On this side, you have your shower area. And as I say, we've discussed about priming your system for that. And that's all there is really to know about this system. Pulling door across, it'll allow you to divide the space like so. And this will give us access to your toilet. In your toilet, I've mentioned outside about the blade. The blade on the toilet is this silver handle here. What this does is it closes and opens the blade, as I mentioned outside. If I pull that towards me, that'll open the blade. If I close that and push it away rather, that'll close the blade. What you do need to do when this is in use, simply push up the lid and open the blade. That'll then allow all the waste to drop into the cassette. Once you've done that, you then need to press that blue button, which activates your flush. That will flush the system, and then once you have done that, close the blade. What that's going to do when you close the blade is it's going to mean that no nasty odours escape from the cassette. And when you do get in the habit of that, it means whenever you come to empty it, you know that it's closed, so you can simply remove the cassette easily. Now, with your, as I mentioned, your flush, it is worth noting that your flush will only activate when you've got your pump on, which you're always going to have on, and that is just activated through that blue button there. When your cassette does get filled up and you know, overfilled, you will get a red light on here just as a warning, just to let you know that you need to empty it. That concludes the toilet area, so dead simple. Just need to make sure that that blade is your number one priority when using this system. You've then got some bit more storage in here, which you can use. Whilst I'm here as well, you'll notice that in the floor here and here you have got some panels which will lift up, and that just gives you access to the underfloor, because you've got a double height floor through here, so you can use this for shoes and things like that, and for storage. Coming into the back bedroom area, you'll notice that you've got a foam insert here, so if you do want to turn this into a big double bed, that'll simply slot into the sides like so. You'll then obviously need a ladder just to help you up. Underneath here, you have your storage, so slide out storage there, like so. And then also a little bit here, which is brilliant for hanging space, just through pulling out that rail there. You'll also notice that you've got space for a TV here that you can then hook up to an aerial. Before moving back into the lounge, you'll notice that you've also got a door here which will allow it to divide. You do of course need to make sure that you unpinch this clip here to release it. But moving through back into the lounge, you'll notice that underneath here you've got your travelling seats. At the moment it's set up in the L position. If you are using these as travelling seats and using this seat to travel with, you do need to flip this panel down. That'll simply flip down. You can then remove the cushion, and then the passenger's legs can simply drop down there to face forward. This table is also movable as well, which is worth mentioning. So you can spin it around, rotate it, and move it forwards and backwards. The main thing in the lounge is obviously your drop-down bed, which, with this being an A-class, allows it to drop into the cab, so it gives you a lot more space. To operate that, it's just simply a manual system. All you've got to do is drop down the front two seats. They drop forward, and then it'll allow you to unclip this and drop it down. I'll do that now for you. With the two seats dropped there, you can then see all you've got to do is unclip this, and that'll then allow you to simply pull the bed down into position like so. With that fully dropped, you can see it gives you a big bed with slats underneath and also a rail safety net, which can just clip into these at the top there. Whilst I am here as well, you've also got a skylight which is just here, and also another one here. Goes back to what I was saying, you have got blackout blinds and fly screens on them, and again make sure that they're always locked into place when travelling. Finally, to conclude, moving back from the bed, you've got your heating system. In this particular vehicle you've got a Truma blown air heating system. How this works is if you turn the panel on, you can then click the dial in, and that'll allow you to select anything underneath the line here. Just by turning the dial, it'll allow you to select through the options and flick through the options. So just running through this quickly, you'll notice that you've got a thermometer in a vehicle. This is your vehicle's temperature. You can take the vehicle's temperature all the way up to 30 degrees if needs be. You've then got your water temperature. You've got Eco, Hot or Boost. Eco is approximately 40 degrees, Hot is 70 degrees, and a Boost concentrates on heating the water and will stop concentrating on heating the vehicle itself and just solely on the water. Hot you're going to use when you're having a shower, and Eco you're going to be using obviously when you're having when you're having a shower, and Hot rather is when you're washing up and things like that. Next, you've then got your fuel, which you can select. So you've got the option of gas, Mix 1, which is a mixture of gas and 1 kilowatt electric, Mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and 2 kilowatt electric, EL1, which is just 1 kilowatt electric, and then EL2, which is 2 kilowatt electric. When you're on site, you'll be using the EL2 a lot. Some sites may limit you to 1 kilowatt electric due to power. It is going to struggle in all fairness on 1 kilowatt electric, a vehicle of this size, so I recommend putting it on Mix 1. Gas will always get it up to temperature the fastest, and of course you're going to be using that when you're wild camping. Finally, you've then got your heater, your fan, which you'll then flick through the options. I've not, you'll notice, got anything selected at the moment, so it's only giving me the option of vent. But if I was to select the temperature for my vehicle, this would give me again the option of Eco, High or Boost, which works the exact same as the water, in the fact that the Boost concentrates on heating the vehicle and takes the concentration from heating the water. So depending on obviously what you want to prioritise. At the bottom as well, if I flick through the options, you'll notice there's a little timer there, so you can time it, so set a time for when you come back for the heating to begin. You then got your clock, and then finally you've got your spanner, which gives you all your settings. The main thing in the settings is your reset button. The only time you're going to need to reset it is if you get an error code. If that is the case, you need to come to this area, click that button in, and that'll reset the panel. You need to wait 20 minutes, and then the full system is initialized and reset, so you can then use it again. You'll typically get an error code if you ever use the wrong fuel on this system. So for example, if you selected gas to heat the vehicle, but you've not got any gas, it'll then flash up as a warning, and you'll get an error code where you do need to reset the system like so. To turn this panel off, all you need to do is pull in the dial like so,